Welcome back to the Remedial Film Class Podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Travis.
And I'm George.
And George, how tubular are your bells?
Wait, what?
What?
Totally?
That's the name of the song from the movie.
Tubular bells?
Tubular Bells is like the inspiration for horror themes for the next 10 years, and it came from this movie.
Yes, it is.
Hmm.
You know what's funny? The music at the end, like it has that traditional Exorcist music, and then it goes into like that loud chime.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where did that come from?
Was there traditional Exorcist
Yeah, it goes
music before?
Oh, wait, how's it go? It's like a
something like that. But you don't want to do it too close because you don't get
yeah. It sounds a
copyright
little.
strike.
That sounds like almost like a jingle.
Well, it's a
It sounds-
multi-instrumental, multiphonic piece.
Chewing gum.
With the badass bass solo, do I sing it? I'm not going to sing it. I already sang it last week.
I'd play it, but Dan doesn't want to do that.
I mean, we can play it for George's sake and then just turn
Cut
it down
out.
really low.
Hey Siri, play the Exorcist theme song.
I didn't find The Exorcist on Apple Music.
Why not?
Tubular Bells. Just play Tubular Bells.
Hey Siri, play Tubular Bells.
I didn't find Tubular
Ah,
Bells
you
on
suck.
Apple Music.
All right, forget you then.
Why does Apple Music suck? It's on Amazon.
Mm.
So, George, the music from this movie,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't actually hit until 15 minutes in on the cut we're watching, which is a little strange for a piece that becomes kind of iconic. But it's super creepy. It's got an interesting, like, kind of upbeat attribute, but yet still sounds creepy.
Yes.
It is not at all orchestrated like the Psycho music, which is important because after Psycho, everything is orchestrated like the Psycho music.
Right.
And this does not share a lot of the DNA. And so after this movie, you're going to hear some very similar themes pop up in some very specific movies where it's a lot of piano, a little bit of strings, and just kind of a more chipper instrumentation, kind of a higher velocity impact on the keys, if you know what I mean.
Yes. The music kind of resembles the main character a little bit.
What's funny is the first time you hear these chimes is when the mother's walking in the streets of Georgetown. So it's like it's not anything going on. Like normally music like that, it's associated with the character, like
An intense scene.
or whatever. Yeah,
a meaningful
she's just walking.
scene.
So it's like that's the first time you hear it is when she's walking.
This movie
far as
is
I know.
scored in a very interesting way. It doesn't have the consistent score of like a modern movie. You know, it's not always omnipresent. And I think they do that for two reasons. One, it's not today. But also I think because of the subsonic kind of games they're playing with the audience during the main movie, it would a score during most of the scenes would actually like distract from what they're going for.
Mm.
Now, let me get you just a clip so that George has it in his head.
Some tubular bells.
Yeah, man.
Now, what came first, Amityville or this?
I want to say this has Amityville beat by about 5 years.
Really?
I'm gonna
I
check.
thought that was like a 72-ish. This was what, 73?
73. Amityville is 79.
Oh, okay.
So post Halloween. Whoa.
Yeah, because the music in Amityville is pretty eerie as well. Same kind of feel, that childlike, playful strings orchestrated.
Well, here's a question for you. What was the score to Poltergeist?
Same kind of sound.
Because I can't think of like a specific piece that stands out to me. Some of these movies have like iconic pieces. I think what we watch next week will certainly have iconic music, and maybe the week after that. Stuff you could recognize if somebody were, playing it in the room. But I don't know that I could pick the Poltergeist theme out of a
If I heard it, I would know it right away. But I'm trying to. I already have the Exorcist music in my head and the Amityville bouncing around, so I'm trying to remember what the Poltergeist is.
All right, I'm gonna click play on this.
What is that?
This video he sent.
Yes.
The tubular bells.
Tubular bells.
Tubular, dude. There's some really like nails on the chalkboard music at the very beginning of the movie, and then it just disappears. And then after that, they've got the call to prayer, and then there's pretty much no score for the next 10 to 12 minutes until you get Tubular Bells. Now, George has listened to that We're going to continue on. I'll put a link in the description to where you can find that without hitting our copyright strikes. But it's definitely on Amazon streaming. Not sure why it's not on Apple. So that's the piece, George. That's Tubular Bells. It becomes kind of a mini hit in the early 70s because the movie's such a
Okay.
hit and it's so creepy.
Hold on, though.
Yeah.
Because Travis said she's just walking. And you agreed.
She's walking, then she sees Father Karras.
Which is pretty important.
What, seeing Father Karras?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, in the beginning, like, you think about Halloween, when you hear the score when she's walking with the pumpkin and then sits on the edge of the thing, but throughout the movie, it's already been established that that's kind of, everybody's got their own theme. You know, Michael Myers has his theme,
Mm-hmm.
Laurie Strode has her thing. With this, it was like, it just seemed out of the blue that it was playing while she was walking. But then, yeah, she does see Father Karras, but at no point is he ever the villain or the antagonist.
But that's very important, that scene when she sees him, because if she hadn't seen him, if she decided not to walk home, or if she had never seen him, she wouldn't have asked Father, what is it, Ayers or something like that?
Dyer.
Dyer.
Yeah. So she would have never asked Father Dyer. I think it was Father Dyer that she asked, who's the priest with the dark hair, whatever. If she was never walking, that would have never happened. So that's a very important thing. And also, the rest of the movie, all those things that happen during the exorcism never would have happened. So that is really that's really the first meeting with the exorcist.
It is a very important scene, George, but I think what Travis and I are referring to is it's not tied to one specific character. And
No,
it
I get
doesn't
it.
become
Yeah.
like an arc within the movie that every time you hear the scary music, something specific is going to happen. Instead, it's just like, here's an opportunity to play our scary song.
Yeah.
And they play it again later in the movie, at least at the very end. And then I forget how many times it plays during the middle, but enough that it became a cultural flagpole. Right?
Sure.
Well, it's definitely
Yeah,
eerie.
I get it. But she wasn't just walking. That was very important what happened.
So let me take George on a quick chronological journey to another tune that is very distinctly based on the sound of Tubular Bells. It'd be like if you went to a band and said, "Hey band, you've kind of got a Pink Floyd groove, but what I really want is the Exorcist groove." This is what you would end up with. Here I had them listen to the Profondo Rosso score from Goblin, Deep Red on the State side, the Argento Giallo. So, again, link below. If you want to check it out, you should, because it's the coolest song we talk about tonight.
I've heard that before. It kind of sounds like the music from a John Carpenter Halloween 3 type thing, too.
It's Deep Red, bro. Dario Argento.
It's the first Jolly I ever watched.
Very,
It's close.
by design, said, hey, I
Yeah.
want Tubular Bells, but I want it played by Pink Floyd. And so he found a band that sounded like Pink Floyd and had them play a song that kind of had some of the same moves, right? The same musical ideas as Tubular Bells.
Mm.
Now,
Yeah, that's very, very
That's
similar.
very similar. Mhm.
if you were to take that same aesthetic, which right now we're talking about kind of clunky pianos, minimal strings, there's a lot of bass in both those songs. Forget about that. Move the bass to the piano for the purpose of this experiment. And then you were like, okay, I'm just going to play kind of the same attitude as Tubular Bells, but just a piano and some strings, maybe a little synth. Oh, and I'm going to do it in a similar time signature to that Umberto Lenzi movie from a couple of years ago. Listen to this music in that context. Okay, so regular listeners will know I harp on this occasionally. We listened to the Halloween theme by John Carpenter. And, well, just listen to their reaction. I don't know that you get this theme without Tubular Bells. I don't know if it sounds like this. It might. I mean, in the end, John Carpenter does his own scores a lot of the times. But there's a certain kind of energy to the Halloween theme, similar tempo, that I think you can draw a line directly to Tubular Bells.
You know what's funny?
I agree.
The thing I love most about that song, that Halloween theme, isn't the high-pitched piano keys. It's the doom,
Yeah.
doom, doom.
That's that
Like that-
bass. You moved it
Yeah.
to piano. and
It
strings.
definitely, that's what makes it eerie to me. And then once that goes away, and then they do like a nice little sail off of just the piano keys. That to me is what that song's all about. But yeah, it's completely from the same.
But then if you look at like Friday the 13th, they're just doing the Psycho thing, right? Like, if anything, it sounds, especially Friday 2, sounds a little bit like what Metallica will eventually do with the chromatic scales and the jun 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 jun. Just take it from the cello and move it to a distorted guitar 2 years later, and you go from doon 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 to jun 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 jun, and it's like, oh, now we're Metallica. It's a very strange. The 80s are weird, but the 70s, pretty chill. Upbeat piano, lots of bass.
There's a band, they do a lot of different things, but I believe they did a bunch of Metallica songs on strings.
Apocalyptica.
Yes, Apocalyptica.
Yeah,
And
they were cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it went from the Friday the 13th, and then Metallica did it with electric guitars, and then it went back to Apocalyptica. I'd like to listen to those two side by side, Friday the 13th and Apocalyptica, and see what they sound like.
Now, was Apocalyptica after Metallica did that album with the orchestra?
S&M. This is the Metallica podcast. Hold on, let me go find the rest of the info because now I want to know.
Oh, we all love Metallica.
Everybody
loves Metallica.
I have to say, I can't believe we watched The Exorcist and we made it a musical podcast.
Hey, we love music, and it's better than talking about jamming a crucifix in our private bits.
This is true.
1999.
Is it though?
Well, I mean, however you get close to the Lord, I guess. So S&M is 1999. Let's look at Apocalyptica.
2005.
So there you go. S&M came first. Who would have thought? Actually, I think Travis would have thought, because that's what he... Oh, no, I thought you were telling me an answer. Fuck you.
No, I was guessing.
Let's see.
I just remember buying that CD, and it was definitely before 2000.
Active 1993 through the present. But let's see when they actually started doing Metallica songs. Don't let me down, Wikipedia. I don't actually know this information.
This is on the fly. Research on the fly.
On the night.
Dude, on the night.
Inquisition Symphony, 1998. So they were doing Metallica on cellos in the 97, 98. So they actually had S&M beat. But their arrangements are much more stripped down, of course, because there's 4 of them. Versus the giant symphony orchestra from San Francisco or wherever they were.
I'm amazed that you find all these little... I kind of feel bad for the people that borrow and then try to hide it. Well, and then Dan finds them out and then calls them on it.
There's a certain amount of just... I mean, here's the thing, guys. Everything we do is derived from our experiences. So our influences are going to pop up in our stuff. And it's up to us to own it. So, George, enough about the music. It was the scariest movie of all time, according to some. Were you scared?
The first half was scary. I don't know if it's just me, but like as soon as like the old priest showed up, I was like, oh, he's gonna take care of business. This is gonna be okay.
Okay.
The first, when they were trying to figure it out, through the whole thing and the development of the personality change and all that, and I know where this is going.
Right.
Like I said last episode, for anyone who hadn't listened to the prior episode, I'll recap. But first, shame on you for not listening to the last episode.
Yeah, I mean, what are you waiting for?
Right. But I had seen a little bit of this movie. I was at a rock show in Philly. Someone was just had a projector on the side of a building outside.
A makeshift drive-in.
Yep, and I was hammered, and I watched like the last 20 minutes of this movie. So I knew how it ended.
Okay.
But I hadn't seen the movie, and like I said, I was very drunk. So I was like, I don't know if I really, really saw it. But anyway, yeah, the first hour and a half of this movie, I had never seen before. Not even a lick of it, except for maybe her head spinning around.
Right.
Saw that in some things here and there.
A lot of pop culture in this movie.
Yeah. But the development part, like it was like an hour and 10 minutes into the movie before they even mentioned exorcism.
Right.
Which is a long-ass time.
Right.
And that whole time, I don't know, I'm kind of like, do I even want this movie in my house? Right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then, like I said,
Once Marin shows up.
old priest shows up,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is going to get taken care of.
Now, did you notice? This is maybe the 100th time I've seen this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time I realized that Pazuzu, which is the demon, in the little girl coming from a little girl's bedroom, yells Marin. Marin! She yells it.
Oh my gosh, I just heard that through the headphones.
It's the
Through
first
the
time
mic, into the
I ever heard it.
What is Marin?
That's the name of the priest, the old man.
Oh.
So obviously, through many years of discussing this movie, you find out that there's a lot of history between.
It's not the first time this particular demon's been exorcised by him.
Right.
Yes.
So when he yells that, and she yells that, it sent all these tingles up my spine because I was like, holy shit. Like, I've never heard that before. And then she screams it again when he is in the house. It's the first thing she yells from the room. So not knowing that, it was creepy. But knowing that made it like a million times better.
Extra creepy.
Yeah. So yeah, you have that feeling that he's going to take care of business. But there's still plenty that happens that's unexpected. Like, he's got a bad heart. When I was a kid, I thought she killed him in the room.
Well,
spoilers.
They leave it up to interpretation, but that's how I interpreted it as well. He didn't.
I think he just gave out.
He didn't last through this one. I mean, like you said, the other priest said, it was months and it damn near killed him.
Right.
And this one did.
But her reaction, if you believe that he died during it, as opposed to her killing him, her demeanor is way more creepy. Because I always read it as she killed him and then she's laughing about it. But when Father Karras first goes in the room, she's kind of staring in a different kind of face, not a maniacal laughter face. It's almost like how a little kid would look at you after you punished them and scolded them or whatever.
It's like the face of the Joker when Batman's dead.
Yeah, but it was almost like, yeah, it's kind of like when the Joker says,
that just hit you?
I could do this all day, all day.
The demon was kind of like, oh damn.
Yeah, like
Marin's gone.
He's lost his nemesis.
Now who's gonna exorcise me?
Who's gonna exorcise me?
I'm gonna get all fat and not good.
But then the laughter kicks in.
Yeah.
And then you realize, okay, this thing it feels free of him. That's how I read it this time watching it. I guess it had more levels for me than normal.
I thought that the demon was very Lecter-like when first meeting Father Karras. Yeah. Very Lecter-like when
it's an excellent day for an exorcism. Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, exactly. When the demon says, "Hey, take this the restraint off, whatever," and he's like, "Well, if you're Satan, just do it yourself. Like, just
in time."
No, he doesn't say no. He says, "Oh, that would be a display,
like a
disgusting display of whatever, blah blah blah." And it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And then the drawer was like, "Do it again," and he's like, "In time." No, do it again right now. In time. It was like a very Lecter-like exchange.
It's good stuff. That and the I can never complain about any acting in this movie. You will never hear me say anything about it. Like, everything. She's probably the best. Was she 13 in this movie?
She was very good for her age.
And the fact that she did not win the Oscar because she didn't do all the voicing.
Oh, well.
How stupid is that?
How the hell is she going to do that?
This kid was lighting up that screen.
Yeah, for sure.
And because they used a voiceover for the demon, they didn't give her an Oscar. Like, seriously.
So, I don't know that we've actually... Okay, so, George, did you like this movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it.
Now, did you complete your homework that I assigned you this afternoon?
Which was...
Go out in the parking lot and walk around by yourself in the dark.
I didn't go out in the parking lot, but I did take like 5 minutes in the dark by myself.
And how did that go?
In my living room. The end of this movie is relief for me.
Oh.
So I just felt relief.
Yeah, the decompression, when you were suggesting that, I was like, okay, I don't know where you would have to be to have to go there and feel that. Like, I know you as a person, so I didn't, I mean, we're well aware of, like, Padre Pio and his writings and
Yeah, spoiler alert, we're all Catholic.
Right. So it's like, you know about all those things. So yeah, you're going to look at the ending in this movie as a triumph. It's almost like Karras beat his own demons. It was it was kind of a redemption for him in a way, because he had such a loss of faith.
It was a sacrifice, and so it was a
But it was
redemption
more
kind of thing.
to me. It was more than that, because like when you think about, they keep showing him he wants a transfer. He wants out. He doesn't even want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You see him during mass.
I mean,
know
he gets exactly what he wants, right?
Right.
The transfer, and he doesn't have to do it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you watch him doing the mass, and you're thinking, okay, this guy is consecrating a host that he doesn't really even believe in right now.
Yeah,
like it's just a lot of things that he was going through. That ending was almost like a redemption for him in a way.
Absolutely.
Does that mean his holy water is like less effective than another priest's holy water at that point?
I don't think so. I think if you're a priest and you're consecrating a host, that's a consecrated host, no matter where you're at personally. I mean, it's not like he was.
Yeah, I think that was a rhetorical question or a joke.
I just wonder.
Are you
like, I don't
serious?
know what the metaphysics are of any of this stuff, because
Oh well, it's not going to be explained by any
I don't know.
science. It's,
Right.
Yes.
But I mean, he even says the holy water is not holy water.
Well,
So, Dan's asking, is if somebody who has lost his faith, is his blessings and or whatever even carry through? Which is a good question.
it's a great question.
And then I wonder, at the end there, he captures or whatever, he receives the transfer of the demon, and he, flings himself down the stairs or whatever. Is the demon actually defeated, or is the demon just now looking for another host? And it's just like, closest body I can find. Here's a crowd of people. Just going to pick one.
Well, I don't think it's closest body I can find.
It depends on what you believe in, how that works. Like I've been.
There's so much that's not explained here.
There's a priest, an exorcist that I've listened to him talk a few times on. He has a lot of YouTube videos. People interview him all the time. I wrote his name down. Father Vince Lampert, and he explained how that's one thing the movie does not get right. Like, it's not going to jump from body to body. It's not going to leave one body and go to another. It's not going to find the closest host. So that's a creative license, what they did there.
Sure.
But he did say, because one of the people asked him, of the Hollywood exorcism movies, who gets it close, and I think he said The Exorcism of Emily Rose is the closest. This movie has a lot of you can't say fact-based. I guess it is fact-based truth based on things that have been done and have happened, because it's based on a true story.
Right.
So they chainsaw, but we, based on a true story can mean a lot of things.
No, they took a lot of journal entries from this one case in Maryland from the 40s, I think. And Blatty actually had 4 or 5 Catholic priests and people that have been involved in exorcisms that were part of the consultant group on the set. So they were, and actually the one priest in the movie was a real priest.
Which one?
Father Dreyer, I think. The one who's holding Karras' hand at the end, giving him his last rites.
Yeah.
Father Dyer, who plays piano.
Yeah, he's a real priest.
Is he? Hold on.
Yeah, he's a real priest. So he was one of the consultants. Blatty said he wrote the book based on the story of this case of a 14-year-old boy, not a 13-year-old girl. So he took that information, he took all the journal entries, he interviewed and whatever, and it's based way more than Texas Chainsaw is based on a true story. It's based on true events. We're not going to say the whole story's true, but the things that happened in this movie were based on things that they experienced. Of course, there's some creative license here and there.
Sure.
But you can read those entries if you want.
It's like you can say that probably the types of things that were coming out of her mouth were the same types of things.
Yeah. And
that were coming out of.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that were similar from the real case. I mean, the exorcism of Emily Rose was actually, when you watch that movie, the cassette tape they play in the trial is the actual audio from the real exorcism. That the girl died during the exorcism. That's what the whole movie's about.
Oh, okay.
She dies during the exorcism. The two priests are on trial.
Gotcha.
So they show you what happened, and then in the courtroom they play the real cassette tape of the real event.
Interesting. I kind of want to watch that, but then again, I don't.
It's good. It's more modern than this. It's not as effects heavy.
But maybe I should.
You would probably. I don't want to say enjoy it, but
no. This kind of stuff. I mean, this was supposed to be the scariest movie ever, right? It didn't scare me, but
you were also prepared.
The movie didn't scare me,
right?
But the thought of this actually happening, because I know it does actually happen here and there, right? That scares the shit out of me.
Well, yeah. The people that say this is the scariest movie ever made normally are people that saw it in the 70s and were part of that experiment.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, if I watch The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is a case that happened when? Like,
more recently,
yeah. Right? I don't know, man. It just gives me the meh.
Well, it heebies your jeebies.
It definitely does. Like, when I saw that, what is that thing called with the letters on it? The Ouija board or Ouija board? What is it called?
The Ouija board.
Ouija?
Ouija or Ouija?
I don't know how you say it.
People say Ouija.
I don't know.
I think it's
I'm never going to let one of those things in my house.
No, you shouldn't.
And I had that rule before I watched this movie.
Yes,
like, I was like, no, we don't fuck with that shit. That is,
right.
There's nothing good that can come from that shit. I don't care if it's pretend or make-believe or if it's really evil. I don't care. I'm not taking a chance. Get that shit away from me.
That's one of the things that Father talked about in the video I saw. He explains the attachment and the opening of doors, opening of gateways, almost like vampire type thing. You know, they can't come in your house until you let them in.
Right.
You can't invite them in. So he explained one case where the demon told him that he was invited. He was invited.
Yes.
And he does not have to go anywhere because he was invited.
Right, which is why when I'm watching this movie on my television, I'm like, oh my God, what did I just invite in my home?
You didn't, because you're not doing, they talk about seance and all that stuff. That's opening doors. Like someone will say, "Whoa, what's wrong with a medium, or what's wrong with a clairvoyant or a psychic or whatever?" If they're real, most of them are fake. I would say 90%, 95%, maybe 98%.
Yeah, well, most of them are con artists,
right?
And if the other 2%
are,
I don't want anywhere near me.
I always had it explained to me, if it's a real event, if this person does have this ability,
right?
They are holding a curtain back. They're pulling a curtain back, and you have to ask yourself, who's letting what's coming through, and who's letting it through. That, to me, that's
Sure.
always been my thing, because my mom used to go, and I'm like, yeah, but you just don't want to mess with that stuff, because you don't know. I mean, most of the time they're just telling you what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So, and most people, it's just fun, whatever. But there are cases where these things attach. If it's a true event, and they attach, then that's when you get an event like this where the word he used was manifestation.
When you say he, you're talking about
priest,
the YouTube priest?
exorcist.
Okay.
Yeah. When he says when it manifests, like you can have, he explains like four different versions of that aren't possession. You know, you have the attachment, you have the, almost like
It's like diabetes and pre-diabetes. Like you can have full-on possession type A,
possession
type
comes
B,
last.
pre-possession.
Yeah, he said it doesn't always end in that.
Well,
And
obviously,
right.
because
And even if it does
it's-
end in pre-possession, you could still end up pregnant, so you have to be careful.
that's true.
Wear a condom. Yes,
That's true.
But he explains how they exhaust all medical aspects first.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in psychologists, psychiatrists, medical doctors. They eliminate every possible cause of what is going on. Unlike this movie where it's like, it's just so, the medical field is almost being snide. Like, well, you could always call an exorcist. Like they weren't. That wasn't a suggestion that was coming from a good place. They were basically just telling her she's SOL unless you keep puncturing your daughter.
Well, if you're a doctor, right, and you don't believe in any of this nonsense, right, but you have seen an exorcism work, then it must be the way they explained it.
But what
Right?
if you're not a doctor and you don't believe in any of this nonsense and you've never seen an exorcism work? Is that why I like Exorcist 3 better than the first one?
I don't know.
I think you like Exorcist 3 because you enjoy performance.
Because you're
Just
a sadist? No,
really good,
I've never seen
really
Exorcist 3.
amazing story and performances in that movie.
And maybe the best jump scare in the history of cinema. We should have watched that movie. I'm just kidding. Also, we should follow this movie with that movie because it's fucking awesome.
I'm game.
Skip
know
Exorcist
if-
2 because it blows.
Just skip Exorcist 2.
No, we don't see no one volunteers. It's like going to Applebee's. You don't want to go to Applebee's. You just end up there. Sorry, are they a sponsor? They're not.
Not
a sponsor.
anymore.
No, they're not yet.
It's okay. I like steak that I can bite through with my teeth.
No. Actually, they say Denny's. Denny's. You don't make a decision to go to Denny's. You just end up there.
Or Waffle House.
Or Waffle House. So it's like, it's the only place open at 3 a.m.
It's a landing
So
pad.
that's where you go. Yeah. So that's the heretic. That's Exorcist.
Just
2.
to put it
No
into
one actually-
perspective, George, I've seen some really bad movies. Only a couple of them I've made you watch on this podcast, and I still can't get through Exorcist 2. It's not a fun kind of bad. It's just what the hell.
It's just terrible.
What the
The only
hell?
thing good about it is you see a grown-up Linda Blair.
Yeah, but you can.
And she
She's in a
looks
lot of
pretty good.
movies in the 80s, so. And she's in Scream. You've already seen her.
Yes, you've seen her in Scream. Can we talk about how amazing she was in this movie? Like, I forgot how
Wait,
good she
hold
was.
on. She was in Scream?
Yeah,
Yeah, remember when
we
she
highlighted
popped
it.
up and we were like, she was one of the cameos that you wouldn't have known.
I wouldn't have known her.
She was one of the reporters outside school.
She like shrieked a line at one of the other reporters. It was very quick. But I went, yay, Linda Blair.
Obviously, after her metamorphosis, how she acts,
Mhm.
but all the subtleties in her gradual change, to me, were ridiculously awesome. Just like all those little, when she's being hypnotized and when she's in the hospital room and like the doctor's like, do you feel this? And she's like, I don't feel anything. Like just the way she delivers these lines, you don't expect that from a 12-year-old.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah, I thought that she played that despondent, that character,
Mhm.
like when she was in the doctor's office, and and even when she was even more far gone into it, like she played those characters really well. The beginning, when everything was like white picket fence,
Mhm.
all hunky dory and happy, I was kind of like, this is kind of cheesy a little
Mhm.
bit, but
What's the mother's name? Is it Ellen Bernstein?
I don't know.
Who's the actress that plays the mother? She's also suffers from that. Like everybody's so hunky dory that they're almost like overplaying everything, but then when they gotta get into it and actually act,
Then it's really good.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
How was the happy so bad, but the sad and angry was so good?
I don't know. It had to have been done on purpose.
I guess so.
I don't know.
I don't really have a problem with it because Happy lasted about 10 minutes. So, I mean,
But even when she comes downstairs, like right before she pees on the rug, and she's like, "I'm gonna die up there," like just all those things that I kind of missed. Because I mean, basically, when you pop this movie in, you're gonna jump scenes. If you've seen it, once you've seen it, you're like, okay, I want to see this scene. I want to see this scene again, and you start jumping scenes, and you kind of miss all those little things, the nuanced stuff. You know, the spider walk down the steps was edited out of the movie, so you didn't see that until this version came out on DVD.
I think that was a good move.
What, to take that out?
Yeah.
It didn't fit.
Yeah.
It was out of place.
Yeah.
When they took it out, but they popped it in because it is kind of cool.
And the part where she like erupts blood from her mouth is pretty fucking creepy.
Yeah.
That part works. The actual spider crawl, to some it will work, to some it will not.
Yeah.
But you.
Reminded me of the RC car from The Thing.
Oh, from The Thing, yeah. The head crab.
No, it was an actual real contortionist that did that. It was not
Not on an RC car?
No, but I mean, it wasn't like supported by wires and stuff. Like it was a real spider walk down the steps. So they had that going for
You have
them,
to know
which
that
is nice.
contortionist was really disappointed on opening night.
Which is nice.
She was like, "Oh, guys, I'm in a movie. I'm in like a featured scene. And I hear it's doing great and it's #1 at the box office. Come watch me." Oh, they cut.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I hope you still enjoy the movie.
Well, apparently the same shit happened to the woman that did the voice of the demon. Did the voiceover. She kind of was like, okay, they didn't credit me, but there's a lot of acclaim going on, and there's nominations, and Linda Blair's getting a nomination, so I don't want to overshadow that, so I'm not going to say anything. And then once the movie made millions and millions and millions of dollars, she sued because she wasn't credited, and she didn't get whatever she was supposed to get through her SAG for being the voice of
The demon.
Pazuzu. Yeah.
Read your
Pazuzu.
contracts, guys.
Yeah.
Read your contracts.
But I mean, I don't know. Same thing. The throw up body double was the face of Pazuzu. That white face with the circle, the sunken in eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So she was in the movie a lot as Pazuzu, but then she was mad because they didn't give her credit as the body double, the vomit body double. Like, what is wrong with these people?
Well, and that's the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
thing.
extra-
Read your contracts, but also like be prepared to abide by the contract, right? Like if you signed
Right.
it, don't bitch later because you signed the contract. Read it first.
What did her contract say?
I don't know. All I know is she didn't get the credit in the credits.
Did her contract say you're not going to get any credit?
I don't know. We have to go
I don't
read
know.
it.
She would have won in court if it didn't, so I'm going to assume that it did. Say that she was just going to be credited as whatever she was credited as.
Yeah.
If at all, because if it's in the contract, it'll stand up in court and you'll get your way. Allegedly.
Hmm.
Who knows, guys?
So I'm under the assumption this is not a good pick for us, Dan. You didn't like it?
What do you mean?
What are you talking about? This movie kicks.
I'm getting like a skeptic.
Well, I mean,
What?
I'm skeptical as all get out. Like I was raised in the church, and I do tend to
Right.
lean Jesuit pretty hard,
Right.
just in like philosophical ways. I still think all this is hocus pocus nonsense, but the first hour of the movie is fantastic. Like it does heebie my jeebies a little bit. Like it's good
Right.
and creepy, and the subliminal but not quite subliminal. Like it's clearly there. You saw it. You just didn't see it very long. Demon
There's
face
so
stuff.
many subliminals in this movie.
It's good.
Like the flashes and faces and
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's stuff I didn't even notice before, but because it was Blu-ray, I was like, oh, there. Oh, wow.
I kind of wish it
Face in the
went
kitchen.
a little quicker, because I think you'd still catch on that you saw something, but you wouldn't be able to. Because I could actually focus on the demon face on 2 of those, and I'm like, I don't want to see
Yeah.
the face. I just want to know it's there. Like,
Well, did you see Karis's mother in the window right before he jumps through it?
no, I didn't even notice.
No.
Her face. I'm like, I saw a face in the window, so I paused it, and it was Demi. It was that face. It was the old lady's face.
So is that a trick from the demon to get him to jump through the window?
I don't know.
Oh, that changes things.
I don't know.
Takes a little
But
bit of
that-
the agency away from him saving everybody, and instead he's just been forced by the demon to hug that
I'm
lady.
not sure. I'm not sure that he saved anyone. Like
Well, she was clean.
Right, she was
This
clean.
girl is clean.
Yeah,
But
the girl
did
is clean.
Did he jump out the window,
Or was he pushed?
or did the demon jump out the window?
That's a good question. It looked like he was fighting it, and his eyes changed right before he jumped. So it was almost like
He did
and
it
then-
on purpose.
But then you got to ask yourself, okay, here's a priest who finally refound his faith and then committed suicide. Is he punished for that? Like that? I don't know.
He got his
if it
last
was
rights though, so that might fix it.
But if you follow Beetlejuice rules, he now has to work in social work in the afterlife because he killed himself.
But he didn't kill himself. He injured himself gravely, potentially, and then he gave his last rites. So wouldn't that absolve
Okay.
you of the suicide?
I'm assuming, yeah.
I don't really
Yeah,
know
definitely.
the rules of all these things because, like I said, but
Well, I mean, in the Catholic faith, and the real priest that's in the movie, he is a Jesuit priest.
I was
as
reading
well.
that a minute ago when you guys said that he was a real priest. That's
Um,
interesting.
Yeah, so he was involved in a lot of the making of the movie. So they did consult with him a lot. As far as I know, you get your, you're able to give a confession at the end of your life. You're pretty good, from what I know.
Seems like
from what
kind
I've
of a
been
low
told.
bar, honestly. But
Well, I mean, that's the whole purpose of last rites. I mean, if you're obviously you have to be sorry for your sins. You can't,
you have
you can't
to
be
have.
like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I'm dying. Hey, where's Father? Come here. You can't do that. You have to honestly be repentant of your sins.
so George, you said that the first hour or so was scary, and then the rest. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said was kind of triumphant by the end.
It was relief.
Relief. Now, what I did last night, because I ran out of time, was I watched the first hour, and then I turned it off. And I hadn't seen this in 20 years. And
Mm-hmm.
the first hour is rocking, man. I love the first hour. It is what I need as a mid-30s like horror guy who's seen too many jump scares.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. I was like, oh yeah, that heebie'd my jeebies a little bit. It was good.
Yeah.
And then I watched the second half today, and I was just like, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's got. That's the part I always remember, though. Like, I'd forgotten most of the first hour of this movie, but I couldn't. I mean, you can't forget the stuff that's immortalized itself in pop culture, right? The spinning heads and the vomiting and the crucifix stuff and the sailor mouth and whoa.
Yeah, like I was saying before, none of that stuff was scary to me. Like none
Just
of it.
disturbing.
Yeah, none of it.
Yeah,
Just
it's not
the
scary.
the idea of like a demon taking possession of a person is scary as shit.
Right.
And like I said, for me, when the priest showed up, it was like everything's gonna be all right.
But it really wasn't.
But that's how it felt.
That's how it felt
to me.
okay.
I was like, okay, now there's an opposite force because there was nothing
Right.
keeping this thing in check up until that point. And it's like, okay, now at least we have some other figure that's going to push back against this demon and effectively,
Right.
right?
So I think
Assuming because it's called The Exorcist, right? So,
I think this movie kind of falls in the same line as like Full Metal Jacket. There's two movies here.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't hate the second 45 minutes because I enjoy the exchange. I enjoy that mental chess match going back and forth and the don't talk, don't listen to it, don't and then it starts talking about his mother and playing with his his regrets and his his own demons. She's attacking his own thoughts.
Yeah.
So I don't have any problem with any of it. So when I hear people it's almost foreign to me to think like, the last 30 minutes, it's not scary, but it's definitely disturbing.
Yeah.
And then it's also fun to watch because of the dialogue, and the effects still hold up.
No,
I
yeah,
mean,
the effects were great.
I
Like
mean,
when,
it's probably Dick Smith's best work.
yeah, like when she was levitating.
Yeah.
And they were just like, I forget the phrase that they were saying, but they was just like repeating what they were saying until she like came down onto the bed.
Yeah.
It was like a battle, right? It was a battle.
Yeah.
The first hour and 10 minutes or hour and 20 is like
The setup.
It's this thing that's rampant and it's out of control and it's going to kill this girl. And like no one's humble enough to just say, this is not medicine.
Right.
She doesn't need medicine. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, the mother finally
it was
says
kind of like
that.
that denial. That first hour and a half of the movie was just denial that this is what it is. And then, once the exorcism actually starts to happen, or even just the interview, like the first interview that he does with her, like at that point you're like, okay, this is the beginning of the battle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like and the battle is a completely different feeling to the beginning of the movie, because the beginning of the movie is scary and stressful and like creepy.
Yeah.
And I think that the second part, which is like the last half hour or 40 minutes or whatever, that's just a whole different feeling. It's a battle from that point.
It's icing on the cake.
I think it's just different.
Yeah, they're definitely two different feels.
I think it's really funny that for the, let's call it 20 years since I watched this movie last, I remember thinking the movie wasn't scary, but was probably scary to people in the 70s, but that it was just kind of gross and just kind of But that's because all I could focus on was that last half hour. So it like surprised me how
Right.
much I really liked the first half of the movie and like wished it would have just continued that way. And it never would have been the hit it was, but I could almost imagine this movie working with, stay with the mom's perspective, hear some of the exorcism like through the door, and then cut to Kinnaman out on the street as Karis comes flying out the window. Don't actually show me the battle. Like, leave that to my imagination. But just shorten the movie a little bit and have the same ending with maybe like a Karis with like a demon face, and then he gets his last rites and he's got a regular face, and you're like, wow. Like, a little bit of triumph at the end for Father Dyer. Like, you could make that work. Cut 20 minutes off the movie. It wouldn't be as spectacular. It wouldn't sell as many tickets. But I think it would be scarier.
What would be cool is that, but with some kind of like audio outside the room.
Oh, yeah, like through the door. Like, you hear it going on in there, but you just don't know what you're looking at.
Well, through the door is fine, but you can't be muffled. I think, how he took a tape recorder in, to record the interview, basically. I think that kind of thing, like, we need to record this because, that's just what we do now. Whenever we do an exorcism, it's recorded, period. You know what I mean? And that's like playing in the other room or something, or like you could hear it, so that you can hear that you're in what's going on in the room, but you can't see it.
I'd be fine with that. I mean, you're basically a spectator to this family anyway.
Yeah.
So, but you definitely would need to hear that dialogue going on in that room.
Definitely.
Whether you see it or not, even little snippets, but you would have to hear it because there's so much character building going on in there, and then his leap wouldn't have the same gravity if you didn't see his struggle, seeing his mother being talked to in his mother's voice, like the visual of that. You could watch any reaction on YouTube of that scene, and people, they have some video of back then when he walks in that room and it's all white and it's his mother sitting there looking back at him. Like the reaction to that. You don't get that if you're sitting in a living room with the mother.
I would just want to see a camera on the mother while you're hearing these, screaming matches between the two sides, and just focus on her just like stress. I think it'd be more in line with what they did for the first hour of the movie.
Yeah, and it kind of eliminates the spectacular, like, the skeptics are going to be like, well, obviously the body's not going to change like that. You're not going to have that visual change. It might be, people have a hang up and they'll say, oh, it's all psychological or it's a schizophrenic or whatever, even though it's been confirmed by many people that's two different things.
Sure.
Well, the concern is if you're seeing such manifest physical changes, that makes me as a more skeptical person think that is the interpretation or the perception of the Exorcist, which at that point, they're just doubling down on what they're already working with, So it doesn't necessarily follow that she would or would not be possessed by a demon. It would just mean that they were so content in their own beliefs that she is possessed by a demon that when they start seeing her as a demonic figure, it just confirms that they believe it. And it's like, well, we know you believe it. You're the Exorcist. Like, what about her?
That Father Lampert actually talks about that, and he says they always have more than just the Exorcist and another priest in the room. Like, they always have a family member of the victim. The victim is obviously in the room. The Exorcist, like, there's more than 2, 1, I'll corroborate your story. Yeah, this is what happened. Like, there's other people in that room to confirm, yes, she was levitating. That's what I saw.
So they can be like, Karen, you seeing this shit? She's levitating. Yeah, I see it. She's levitating. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Get the holy water.
Like, he actually said there are actual priests that don't believe in this. Like, when he got assigned, they're like, okay, like they're not even buying it. So there's even skepticism in the actual, not obviously the lay people. There's definite skepticism, but actually in the offices of the the diocese or whatever, there's people that are like, yeah, no.
Now was Father Dyer involved? Remind me, because I don't watch this movie as often as I should, I guess. Is Father Dyer involved at all in the process of bringing in the Exorcist, or is he just kind of tangential to the story because he knows the family?
I think he's a friend of the mother.
I think it's the latter.
Because he would be a really good vehicle for doubt, right? You could put on that character a little bit of skepticism toward the exorcism as a person inside the priesthood. That would be an ideal perspective for that.
And actually, I think that already this movie does a really good job of making the priest, like, I don't know, human.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it was because of the time frame, but like,
No, Father Karras is like an everyday guy. You can tell. He used to be a boxer. He's drinking beers. He's hanging out. He's on a college campus. He's very in tune with obviously the lay people.
Yeah.
And he's also struggling with his own shit. So he's a good character.
But the way I think people think of priests are like, the scene when he goes to see the bishop and the bishop is talking to his, whoever that was, like his right-hand man, basically looked like Palpatine, whatever he was. All right, so, like, that's what people think of when they think of priests. But, like, priests are human.
It definitely humanized them. Because he even said, I can't, this being a psychiatrist to these people, it's not working for me. It's not the work I want to do, and it's not working.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, he was very human in this movie.
Yeah, and ultimately, he was not strong enough.
No.
Like, his faith wasn't, deep enough, I guess, to defeat this demon or to exorcise this demon. It just wasn't.
No, you just beat the shit out of a 12-year-old.
No, all he could do was beg it to take him instead.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that he couldn't,
Well, that's actually discussed. The demon realizes that Marin is solid, rock solid. That's why even when they're both in the room, he's in the very beginning. He says something to Marin, stick your dick, whatever he says to him, and then that's it. Then he goes after Karras the whole time.
Right.
So even when Marin's saying the prayers and the tongue's coming out, and she's looking right at Karras the whole time.
Right.
So he's already been targeted as the weak one. And that's when Marin's like, don't listen to it. And when he screams, "You're not my mother!" Like you can tell that's his first movie he's ever made. Like you can just tell he went in places. He did the work.
Yeah.
You can tell. And apparently he was actually in the seminary for a little bit, the actor. So he probably used some of that. And he apparently in real life lost a little bit of his faith as well. So that's why he left.
Sure.
So he probably used a lot of that.
Someone that has some legit respect for the office. And that also in real life knows that they're not cut out for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was his character the whole time.
It's a perfect selection for that role.
So one thing I wanted to focus on when we talk about like the spectacular effects of the last third of this movie, the thing that makes it a pop culture icon and the thing that we all knew before we saw it, thanks to every movie ever made ever since. The decision to go with such over-the-top physical practical effects in a movie that doesn't really earn it for the first hour, like it doesn't really build up your expectation for such a thing. It's successful in that it makes it memorable. I would say it's somewhat unsuccessful because I do like I said, I forgot about the first hour of this movie being so good because I just thought about how over the top the effects are. One effect I want to point to in particular is when her head spins around. Now, George, you've probably seen a child with their head spinning around referenced in all kinds of pop culture.
Yeah, definitely.
And a lot of it comes from this movie. But the thing that I lost because my focus was on the effect and not on the context of the effect. Do you remember why she turned her head around, George?
No, well, remind me.
She's mocking the fact that she killed the director guy by twisting his head around and throwing him out the window.
Right.
Like the thing that clues Kinderman into the fact that there's something, amiss going on in that house. She's not doing it to show off and be scary. She's taunting that she murdered a guy. Like, that's actually pretty cool,
Yeah.
but you lose it because the effect is so over the top.
Yeah.
Because she does that to her mother as well. When she says, you know what she did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cunning daughter. Like that's when she spins her head around. And from what I read, that didn't really happen.
What?
Yeah.
Like it's a what you know what I mean? Like people are like, well, that would never happen. How could a person really twist their head? They wouldn't be able to talk. Like it was just not a hallucination, but it was a visualization allowed by the demon. He didn't spin her head around.
Right.
I mean,
So, but that's people kind of read that as, oh, it's spinning. Because that second time she does it, it goes all the way around.
right.
Yeah.
That's the
It
thing
does
Tom Savini was
360.
pointing out in his workshop is the Reagan that's head spins
Yes.
all the
Yeah.
way around when he plugs her in.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that was all just for the creative license to have it finish when he says amen. Like, obviously that's not really going to happen because then that little girl's not going to be alive. So it's just them being shown that, but it's not really happening. But then you have to say, well, how many other things was she doing that wasn't really happening?
If you're me, a lot of things.
I don't even know how to answer that question.
Like, how much of it was hallucination? He's going to say all of it. But you have to ask yourself, it's not hallucination because they're sitting doing a bong. Like, that thing is doing it. So it still doesn't.
Is that really even hallucination? Hallucination
it's
is not
not
really the
right.
right word.
So it's not like Dan's saying, well, I would say all of it. But I'm saying something was doing it.
Yeah, they're not on mushrooms.
Right. Something was
yeah.
making them see that, whether it really happened or not. That event was happening, and it was being caused by something supernatural. So whether what they account happened, they say, oh, well, she spun her head around.
Was that in the account of what happened? We don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, obviously, the real story that didn't happen. The only thing I know in the story it's based on was the bed shaking, the language,
Mm-hmm.
the languages,
Mm-hmm.
speaking multiple languages, the vulgar language, the physical strength,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the things that were not, obviously I think there was actual, I don't know what they call it, but when letters appear on the skin, whether they're etched in or they are embossed, that apparently happened. It was etching. I think it wasn't like where it said "help me."
Yeah.
It was more like scar, like open wounds that spelled out words, not bubbled, like from the inside. So, but that was in the account as well. So there are things that were in the writings of the participants that were used to write the story. But obviously there wasn't. There was. I think there was a levitation, but obviously not floating 10 feet above the bed.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to go and find those writings, see exactly.
No,
what
I
they
would
said.
too. See how much of this is extra.
So take me back to the beginning. We're in Iraq, and we're following Max von Sydow as he's at like an excavation point, and he finds what I presume to be like an icon of Pazuzu? Like, what's going on with the statue? I need some, like, good old Catholic background on why that little idol he picks up has any significance to the story.
I have no idea.
The only thing I know is that the significance of that dig is that the historic event that happened in that city, the sacking of that city, the winners of that event decapitated every statue in the city and every person. So they showed a few times, they showed different heads, concrete heads or granite heads. I don't know. I guess they would be Greek.
Laying around.
Yeah, so every statue
rubble.
in the city was decapitated, including that little Pazuzu.
But, like, the giant demon thing that he sees later in his vision isn't
Was not.
decapitated.
Right.
So is him ripping the head off of that little Pazuzu like him decapitating a Pazuzu statue? Did he, like, let it out? I really want to know. Like,
No.
It seems like a real... You're building up some background, but not filling in any of the blanks.
Well, I heard the prequels kind of touch on Marin's history with Pazuzu.
If I remember right,
And-
one of the prequels talks about Justinian in like 5 AD, and they meant to say 5th century or 3rd century AD, but they read it wrong and they left it in the movie, and I turned off the movie.
Oh.
I had
Yeah.
limits, and that was beyond my limits.
I know when he finds that statue, he already knows of this demon because he has exorcised other people. So he is aware of it.
Well, and then he picks up what looks to be the same kind of like priest medallion out of the rubble at the beginning, and they're like, "Oh, this
it's
is
a
from a
saint
different
medallion,
time."
but I don't know who.
And it's similar to the one that of Karis's that the mom tries to give to Dyer, but he gives back. You know.
Could you tell who the saint was on that medal?
No.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the same period as the statues. I don't know why he found it in
I
there.
figure it's evidence of the same thing that happens at the end, right? Like a priest falling during an exorcism. And
Maybe.
but they don't tell you anything, so you just kind of have to... I mean, you get to write your own story, which is kind of fun. The movie does that a lot, actually.
Yeah, sometimes that's good.
There's a lot of opportunity. Like, where is Reagan's dad? He's in Italy. What's he doing in Italy?
Yeah. They were apparently estranged. That's all I got from it.
So,
like they obviously weren't
I'm going to presume...
getting along.
I'm not even going to
Yeah.
presume. I am going to deduce from the evidence available that if she's an actress, he's probably an actor. And I bet he's in Italy just trying to revitalize his career, shooting some motherfucking giallo. Am I right?
Probably.
Time frame's
maybe.
right.
Yep.
George Hilton is her dad.
Okay.
Fabio Testi is her dad. There you go.
No matter what, it always connects to Jolly.
I'll pull as hard as I have to
Always.
make it happen.
That's what she said.
I'll dig as deep as I need to.
Reminds me of a quote from the Sean Bean character in Bravo 20 for the 5 people that are listening who've seen that movie. I pulled as hard as I could. That's a great movie. You guys should watch it sometime. It's about the SAS and Desert Storm. It's pretty cool. But it's also 2 movies, and I prefer the first half. Second half,
That's why I'm with Full Metal Jacket. I like the first half, but I don't like the Vietnam stuff.
Same.
I think that's most
Word.
people.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautifully shot, but it just kind of is. If there's anything to be more of a downer, it's that.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole movie's a
You thought
downer,
the
but then
first
it
part
takes
was
you-
sad. Just wait.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Are you guys, I know you are afraid of Ouija boards. Have you guys ever used one?
I'm not afraid, just aware.
Sure. Have you ever used one?
Absolutely
Never.
not. I will never.
Okay.
Never.
Did you catch what happened with the Ouija board in particular?
Yes. Yes.
That it jumped when she went to touch it? The mom?
Well, it didn't just jump. Because the mom asks a question about who is Captain
Yeah.
Howdy or something like that. And the thing jumps from her hand. Did you see what it jumped to?
No.
No. Do I even want to know?
It jumped to the no. Like it rejects the mom.
Right.
Jumps from her hand to no.
Well, I think one of the rules of the Ouija board is that you're supposed to close it out. Close out your session. Maybe she didn't close out a session, Reagan, and that's why this thing it was like an open portal the whole time.
I don't know.
Here's the thing, man. Even if
this thing's just creepy.
okay, so
Yeah.
you guys are hilarious.
You're supposed to make it say goodbye. You're supposed to end the session.
You
I
know a
that.
lot about this for
Okay.
someone who's never used one, Travis.
Well, I'm a convert, so I'm aware of more things, and I'm not a cradle Catholic. Let's put it that way.
So the thing about the Ouija board, you are even as a person who doesn't think that they're a thing, right? They're just a toy made for children
Parker
to
Brothers.
scare devout people into not hanging out at the fun
Check.
parties, right? Y'all go home. We're gonna get the Ouija board out. Okay, they're gone. Now switch the music. Like, the thing about the Ouija board is you should be off put by the fact that she can play with it by herself. Like, that's the setup.
Yes.
It's just like, oh God,
Yes.
she thinks that she can play that thing by herself and not like know the answer. That's a problem. There's a problem in that house already. Like,
See, here's the funny thing. When you said that, it made me smirk. Because to me, personally, it's the chicken before the egg. Like, Ouija boards were around way before Parker Brothers put them out. So, there's a stigma to the Ouija board that is well-deserved. There's a lot of basis and history to that board, just like tarot. Like, you could buy tarot cards from, the Wawa, but the history of the tarot card
is way
legit.
older than whoever's
so
making
it's
tarot
like,
cards.
just because it has a logo on the box doesn't mean it's it means it's a fake representation of something that's real. So the fear is, you can buy that at Kitty City, Toys R Us, KB, whatever. It's got a Parker Brothers logo on it. You bring it in your house and you play it at slumber parties, and you could be fine. But you
could end up like Reagan as well.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. Yeah, it's just like when people are like, oh, you can't read Harry Potter because it has witchcraft and sorcery. It's like, all right, slow down. Calm down. It's a book. I'm going to read the book.
I'm just going to play with this piece of wood and a thing with the looking glass on it. That's
I'm
all.
secure, and I know the dangers of witchcraft. I know the dangers of black magic. I know the dangers of all these things. I know the dangers of pulling the curtain back. Am I scared of it? No. I'm just aware of it.
So you would do the Ouija board, but you'd like keep your holy water
I would
like
never
right
touch
next
a
to the
Ouija board.
side?
No.
Okay.
No.
Like, just in case it got a little too intense, you could just like douse it with some holy water.
I've
Be like, take
Okay.
that.
I was in the presence one time of someone playing with those things, and I wasn't even Christian yet, and it freaked me out. So I was like, yeah, no.
You felt a real cold breeze on a summer's night, that kind of thing?
No. It was subtle, but it was I don't want to say it was an event, but it was
Just feel it in your gut. You're like, no.
Yeah, It was just one of those things. Like I mentioned it last week, but I've watched this movie as a non-Christian, and then I watched this movie as a Catholic, and it's two different movies for me.
Is it scarier or is it just better?
It's not. It's never. When I saw it before I was even Christian, it was scary because I always had the fear because of the. It was weird because I didn't know if I believed it. I guess I did, but subconsciously I believed in the possibility of supernatural. And movies like Amityville Horror and whatever, where they kind of use the POV as the demon or the ghost. I think it started that I had a fear of ghosts when I was a kid. And I didn't associate ghosts with supernatural, like, a belief in God and all that stuff. It was just ghosts. Ghost stories, they're like werewolves, they're like whatever. Then as I started realizing the ghost stories were possibly affecting people that I respected, like, it wasn't like crazy wacky stories. It was like, oh, this person is somebody I look up to and this shit happened to them and that's what happened to me or something like that. You start associating it and then it becomes real to you. This movie just kind of confirmed demons on that level. So where I wasn't even really Christian, but it brought demons to the forefront where it's a possibility. If that makes sense.
I get you. I
So
get what you're
then
saying.
once I was old enough to...
It's almost like if you think ghosts scared you,
Right.
try demons.
Right. So then I went from being basically an atheist to being agnostic. Like I believed in God, I believed in this, but I didn't believe in like organized religion or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So then that kind of solidified it a little bit for me. I was like, okay, that shit, I don't want to mess with that shit. I've seen and heard too much. Then obviously when I was 21, I became Catholic. This movie went to a different level. If that makes sense. Because now I'm looking at it as,
it makes total sense.
This shit is real to me, can happen if you leave yourself open to it. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get you. That's why, I mean, yeah.
And I kind of have this, even now, I still have the same viewpoint as Father Karras, where it's like, well, you want an exorcism, you're going to have to go back to 1600s, blah, blah, blah. This is what they use to, deal with mental
this is
illness
like
and
this
and
is
that.
like leeches. This is like
Exactly.
a nail in the
Right.
ear. Like, this is not what we do anymore.
But then after hearing people like Father Lampert, when they explain, okay, this is last resort type stuff. This is, everything else is exhausted before we even discuss going spiritual. That I can respect.
You got to do
Yeah,
at least 3 angiograms directly into the carotid artery.
Ugh. My son passed out. What was funny is we started watching it late, and he kind of dozed off at the beginning because it was like too much character development, I guess. So I watched him doze off, so I was like, all right, I won't bother him. And then that scene, she's in the hospital and she gets the beginnings of the dye IV.
Yeah.
And I didn't know he woke up, and he saw that, and he saw the blood squirt with every heartbeat across her chest. And he gets up. I thought he just had to go pee, and then he comes in the room. He's like, pause it. And I'm like, oh, you want me to pause it because you want to watch more? He's like, no, pause it because I don't want to hear it. And he went in the bathroom. I think he almost threw up like 3 times. Like he was just not having it. He can't handle blood.
I mean, I felt this. I felt the same way. I mean, I'd pass out regularly,
Yeah,
getting poked by needles. So
he wasn't having that.
yeah, it was hard for me to watch too.
It was
Yeah, so I
really
told
a
him-
well put together shot.
Yeah.
It did send me on
So
a
I t-
wormhole investigation as to like why they were doing an angiogram through the carotid, because that seems so dangerous.
Yeah.
And pretty much
yeah.
like they don't do those anymore because they're too dangerous. But yeah, okay.
Dangerous because of blood loss? Because that was nasty.
Well, you can have like a hematoma, like a bruise, essentially, if they damage the
Right.
thing, and then it like obstructs your airway because it's right there.
Okay.
So, yeah, they do them through like different vein or different arteries now, so that they don't kill you
Mm.
by accident.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Still probably pretty squirty though.
So I
You-
told my son, I said, if you can't handle that, you're not watching the rest of this movie. So I told
I don't know.
him, 'cause
That's
I
like
said,
the most like physically gross part of the movie, though. Until the head
Yeah, but
splatters
he's-
on the ground at the end. But
He's a bit of a believer, so I don't know how the events of that movie would psychologically affect
So you
him.
didn't let him watch the rest of it?
No, he did not watch the rest.
now you've
Okay.
created like a thing that he wants because you're not allowing him to see it. Now it's living in him. Like, I gotta see this
Nah.
movie. Dad says I can't watch
Well,
it.
he
I
wanted to
better
watch
it."
Insidious. He's like, "Can we watch Insidious? My friends in school talk about it." I'm like, I don't know. It's up there with rated one of the scariest movies. I don't know if you want to see it, but we'll see. I'll test him with a few things before we go back to this. Because I don't
I
feel
mean,
like
what's the worst that could happen? Screw him up for the rest of his life? I mean,
I mean,
it depends.
here's the thing.
I mean, I don't know where his anxieties come from.
he might end
sometimes.
up like having a podcast or something
How old is he?
about it.
15.
See, he's not gonna like the first hour anyway because it's too slow. It's old man's. It's 30-year-old guy movie. It's not
Yeah.
15-year-old guy movie. He will forget that part. He will remember the pea soup. And it might scare him
Mhm.
and it might not. I don't know.
For me, the scariest part when I was younger was her looking at Karis and her tongue coming out, and it was like the entire length of her chest. That freaked me out.
Not a big Gene Simmons fan. Travis.
She was doing the Gene Simmons, which doesn't scare me when Gene does it.
Oh, it scares me.
He's just like,
it's hard to be scared when you're so turned on, right, man?
yeah,
That's
it's
right.
hot. It's definitely hot. He's like, every time I stick my tongue out, it's $1,000. Yeah.
I don't know. He married Shannon Tweed, so
Yes.
working.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, that visual always freaked me out. And now at 45, I look at it. I'm just shocked that they made a 13-year-old girl play that part and allowed her to do all that stuff. Like, that would not happen today.
It might happen
At all.
today, but it would go a lot differently.
I think they would probably hire an 18-year-old that looks younger. Or they would just make the character 18 like they did in Emily Rose.
They probably do
Yeah,
a
'cause
lot
I don't think
more
they-
with doubles, too. Because they put her through a lot of the stuff that nowadays would be stunt people.
Oh, absolutely. I think she like broke her back or something doing that. And I think the mom got hurt too. So yeah, it's a different time. Apparently the director slapped the real priest in the face right before he goes to Father Karras because he couldn't get the emotion he wanted out of him.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So right before they said action, he smacked him in the face.
Well, I mean,
It's like, oh, that's interesting.
did it get the reaction he was looking for? Asked
I think
Alfred
so.
Hitchcock, who did all kinds of shit like that.
Yeah.
Ugh, yuck. Can't do that anymore, kids. Not in this genre, anyway.
Mm-mm.
I thought it was interesting to watch this as a father for the first time because I expected it to be like more impactful on me. Like I was kind of worried about it being like too like bummed out by this, parent struggling with everything her kid's going through.
Well, you were in Italy the whole time, so.
And I think it's just,
Hmm.
the divide between me and the metaphysical. I was just like, it's stressful. I feel the stress of the stuff. It's scary, but like I didn't have any parent feelings the whole time. It was weird.
It's like when we were watching Poltergeist. Like I wasn't affected as a parent because there's a ghost in the house, but I was affected when they lost their kid. Like that affected me. That whole mentality of going into a room,
Yeah.
and your kid is gone. This movie, I don't know if it's because she kind of came off older, and between the trucker's mouth, like
Yeah.
there was just a lot of things that I couldn't really relate to as a father because my kids aren't like that.
But you have to admit that when the mom laughs and covers her mouth in the
Yes.
doctor's office, that's
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
us with our kids. Like,
Yes. Although I did kind of see my daughter, like, before she became manifested, like, those early scenes of Reagan, I saw my daughter in, like, a couple years.
Yeah.
Being like that. So it kind of hit me a little bit. But once all the makeup started coming on, I wasn't really feeling it. I just looked at it as cool. I don't know if today's people would call this the scariest movie ever made.
It's not.
Yeah,
the DVD
but I can
case says it
understand
is.
who.
The DVD case says it is.
Well, that was made up in a marketing room 40 years ago.
It's where they tell all the lies.
Yeah.
Nearly 50 years ago. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
My God. Yeah, because this is 2 years older than me, this movie.
God, 50 years ago,
Jeez.
Weird Al is putting an angiogram into some lady's neck. Like,
Weird Al.
that doctor looked just like Weird Al.
So you're saying that and then you're not following it up, so you must not know. That doctor ended up being a serial killer.
No, it's not that doctor. It's another guy in the
It's not
background.
that
I
one?
didn't know if we were going to go into it with George, but no, it's some bearded. He's like an
Who?
orderly or something. He's not the main doctor
Oh,
that
okay.
looks like Weird
I
Al.
thought it was him.
It's a different guy with a beard. But yeah, he's a
Okay.
real life murderer. Ooh.
Yeah, someone in that movie
So
killed
one of the
somebody.
doctors in this movie, or some medical personnel in this movie, is an actual IRL killer.
He was an IRL hospital employee who managed to be in a couple of shots. And then also IRL killed like men he found at clubs and stuff.
It's kind of like that basketball card for Tops where the Menendez brothers are sitting 3 seats from the bench and you can see both of them in the background.
Oh, jeez.
Like 2 years before they killed their parents.
I mean, that happens way more, I'm sure, nowadays since we all have cameras. Probably every serial killer is caught photobombing somebody else and we just don't realize it.
Hmm.
Did you know that they have like, I learned this in psychology class when we were learning about subliminals. They have like an underlying track of like animal sounds through like half this movie just to make you feel uncomfortable. Like bees, like the buzzing of bees and like slaughtered pigs.
And it's during all like the slow stuff at the beginning, right? When they're trying to like set
Yeah.
up that atmosphere of like there's something wrong in this house. And now it's gone because you're in the hospital, but now you're back in the house and there's a little something. Yeah, it's cool.
It's very effective. I wasn't aware of how many times that face flashed. I knew of a couple times, but watching it on Blu-ray, I caught a lot more.
It flashed a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah.
I just wish it had been faster. Because, yeah, the couple of
Me
times
too.
I caught it, I was like, damn it, just 5 less frames. And I would have been so into this.
The one that stuck me hard was the one in the kitchen when the lights were flickering.
That was too long.
It was long, but I wasn't expecting it, so it like stuck out. That and the mother at the end.
I like the one that's over her face just for a split second.
Yes.
Because it's more like the Psycho thing where, like, if you aren't paying good attention, you'll miss it completely.
Well, Reagan's face does that right before she grabs the psychiatrist by the balls.
Yep.
I never saw that before either. So I was like, "Ooh, catching stuff."
So was she. Those balls. Hey, George, if you had to guess how old the older priest who did The Exorcist,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to guess how old Father Merrin was, how old do you think he was when they made this movie?
I mean, they made him look old, so I'm guessing he's younger than he looks.
He is. And you're not making this as fun as you could have by guessing an old age and then being surprised.
How old do I think he looked?
Like at first glance, if you're like, hey, this guy's the old priest, he's going to come fight the devil again, he's going to die of a heart attack.
He's like 72.
44 years old.
Holy shit.
Mm.
This guy, Max von Sydow, fought death on a chessboard in The Seventh Seal, which is one of my favorite kind of sort of pretentious black and white movies. Then he fights and helps to defeat Pazuzu in this and lives long enough that he died in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in an
Wow.
Argento movie, guys. Later, way later. One of the kind of crummier ones. But still, whoa, heck of an actor.
Oh yeah,
Swedish, you know.
he played Ming the Merciless too in Flash Gordon.
Yes, he did.
Were his pills like heart pills?
Yeah.
Is that what that
Yeah,
was?
they were like not nitroglycerin. What was that right?
It might be nitro pills. I'm not big on my cardiology.
Yeah, I think they were nitros.
But yeah, it was definitely that was like their establishing shot. So later they could be like, well, his heart's almost gone. You're like, oh, twice now I've learned that his heart is bad. I'm sure I'll file this information away for later.
Foreshadow.
I mean, I honestly wasn't sure if this was like a medical thing or like if this was his vice.
Hmm.
You know?
Maybe that's how he got over his battle with the demon, man. Popping Smarties out of an Altoids container. I guess Altoids out of an Altoids container.
Altoids out of a pocket
You gotta get
watch.
those fresh breath, man. Take that,
Right.
Pazuzu. Mint.
Demons hate
And
men.
they always say to take those pills with a full glass of water. He's doing like a shot of tea.
That was brandy, bro.
Oh, it's Iraqi tea.
Nah, it's brandy, bro.
Yeah, look that up.
It's tea. It's brandy.
I like the one technical detail we're going to have to follow up on with the producers is the tea brandy conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the devil, whatever. Can we talk about the tea brandy?
Was it tea or brandy?
You've got 5 minutes to talk to William Peter Blatty. Figure it out.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm
No,
asking.
I'm getting into the source material, my friend. If I have a chance to talk to him.
Pazuzu? You're going to call P-Dog?
No, the transcripts of those exorcisms he based his book on. That's what we're talking about.
Oh.
He and I.
He and I, you and he in the room that George can't see but keeps talking to you through the Ouija board. Ooh.
Keep that shit away from me. Especially if the medallion is not plastic and it's like one of those old wood ones. Dude, I'm telling you, I've seen those things at the flea market and I've literally steered clear. Never even walked near it. I don't care if there's 9 Marvel, first issues of X-Men,
It's like if you have to thumb through this.
No. If there's an Amazing Fantasy 15, maybe I might touch that Ouija board.
Just to get past it.
Just to get past it, get that Amazing Fantasy. But yeah, I would have to put on. I'd probably ask somebody to move it.
Dan, we need you to move the Ouija board
like-
again.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I really need that Amazing Fantasy 15. Can you move that fucking devil board? Thanks.
It's like, yeah, I'll move the Amazing Fantasy board so you can have your Amazing Fantasy 14. Okay.
I would have trouble bringing that comic home if it was actually touching that board. Just saying. I'm one of
I
them
have to
people.
bless it. Have it blessed.
Get it rated.
Get me some sage.
Then bless it.
Yeah. Get it graded. Yeah, and then bless it. CGC Sage. That's a $1 million book right there.
Oh my goodness. So George, is it the scariest movie you've seen this year?
No.
What was scarier to you?
I don't know. I have to think about
It's
it.
okay. You're with friends. You can admit that you're scared. I mean, what have we watched this year that was actually going to scare George? Like Poltergeist, maybe. This one, maybe. The zombie movies weren't intended to scare you, although 28 Days Later has some moments that are kind of tense, but they're not like stick with you scary.
I think Scream might have been the scariest for you.
Yeah, you really didn't like the
about
phone
it.
call thing.
I did like the phone call.
But I mean, like it
was.
like works.
I mentioned. Yeah, I did say multiple times. This is actually scary.
Yeah.
Like this is pretty scary.
Unsettling.
But that was just one scene in the.
And I'm
movie.
sure we won't file that away for later, audience. You don't have to
Mm.
tell us. We know.
I don't know. I don't think I've really been scared by a movie.
Mm-hmm.
See, I would never call The Exorcist scary. I would definitely call it unsettling.
I thought the first hour was fucking scary, man. But like not for the reason that you guys did, just because it was a well-made kind of tense with eerie stuff.
it's definitely
like,
tense.
made me
But
uncomfortable.
if you add the supernatural to it, something that wasn't really affecting you, it does make it even more unsettling, because here's this innocent little girl who did nothing but be a little girl and is now subjected to this. That, to me, that's scary, because you think about your kids, you're like, it could be symbolism for, sending your kid out to the world and them being attached to horrible friends or horrible job, which brings them horrible friends, or they pick horrible choices in life. And it's
Or
just like
addiction. Or
addiction or whatever. Like, it can be a
yeah.
symbolism for anything. But when you have this child, and it's like that kid did absolutely nothing to deserve what happened to her.
Yeah, but the way the
And it was-
movie plays it up, it's like, well, she's being raised by like 3 different nannies, an absent mom, and a dad who left the country. So if you want to look at like what is really happening in her life, like we don't see enough of like her temptations and her development, right?
Yeah.
Like there's an out there. It's not necessarily fun to think about, but there.
Well, if that's the case, then she's pretty well rounded.
She just wants a horse, man. She just
She
wants
just
what
wanted a
every
horse.
13-year-old
and
girl
a cookie
wants.
that her mom wouldn't let her have.
Yeah, like
she
that's
really
all.
got tackled for that cookie. They might
Yeah.
have some body issues in that house. You will not eat that fucking cookie. In our house, they'd be like, "Yeah, bring me one too, dude.
Yeah.
Cookies all around."
It's like, but that's your last one.
That's your last one.
But bring me one too.
Yeah, like I mean, if we got cookies, we eating cookies.
And how hard could her life be? She had a ping pong table in the basement,
It's true.
right next to the Ouija board.
It's true.
And she probably had
Yes,
somebody to play ping pong with too. Captain Howdy,
Captain Howdy.
dangerous in the corners.
He's got a mean serve.
Mm, that's not funny. Nash, but-
So where do we go from here, Travis? I mean, I know where we go, but like, let's frame it like we're actually discussing it when we know exactly where we're going next.
Okay. Let's ask George where he wants to go, maybe. Pick his brain.
Scare me.
You want to be scared, but we don't know what scares you. What does scare George?
I don't know. Find something.
I don't like that response.
I want to be scared.
I wish they would make a movie about the 3 Days of Darkness. That would be pretty scary.
Yes.
If I don't know what your fears are, then I don't know how to scare you. I mean, it could be an Audrey Hepburn movie for all I know.
A couple of Cher movies, pretty scary to me, honestly. but-
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
It's
Mask
definitely-
is scary, but not for the
Mask.
reasons they intended.
No. All right, so
George doesn't know what
obviously he's
scares
not
him.
gonna give. Yeah,
We're
he
just
doesn't
going to have to keep trying. We're going to push all
We're
the
just gonna-
buttons until we get him to be actually a little scared.
We're just gonna start throwing Oscar award-winning movies at him and see what happens.
Right.
To celebrate next week,
The birth of our country.
the birth of our nation, we are going to visit Amityville, New York area, New England.
Okay.
Not for Amityville Horror, but for Steven Spielberg.
Hey, George.
Hey, George. Hey, George.
We are watching.
Jaws?
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun.
Jaws?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
We're going.
I doubt that's going to scare me, though.
I doubt it too.
But it's definitely a movie I have
But
to
we
watch.
gotta
But it's
try it.
definitely a movie.
It's
you
July
have to
4th.
watch.
Maybe it's sea creatures that that scare me. I don't
Maybe
know.
you're
I don't
just
think
gonna
so.
want a bigger boat. I don't know.
See, knowing George, I think the road of supernatural can be the most scary if done correctly.
I
for
think
him.
you're right.
I don't think any monsters, any animals, any people are going to scare George. He needs something absolute that affects his reality of faith, I think.
I think I have some fine ideas for when we get back from our July 4th celebration of the safety of the water. But for now, thank you for joining us on the Remedial Film Class podcast. As always, you can find us at Twitter and Instagram at Remedial Film Pod. You can find us at facebook.com/remedialfilmpod. You can also email us at remedialfilmpod@gmail.com. If you saw this episode on YouTube, we're also on every podcatcher you can think of. And if you heard this on a podcast, we're also on YouTube. So feel free to cross-pollinate your Remedial Film Class experience as best you can, because we've got exclusive features on either platform. We'll see you back next week for Steven Spielberg's classic, Jaws.
See, I'm tough too because I've never really honestly been scared of anything in the movie.
Bullshit, man.
I'm like you. I'm just watching the movie. I know it's not real. So why would it scare me?
Right.
But I do get stressed if the movie's done well, and I get stressed for the characters.
I think I said that last week.
Yeah.
Like, if this movie was designed to just stress me out the entire time, it accomplished that.
Yeah.
Not scary, but
I'm not afraid anymore.
stressed out.
Word.
Well, I think that our 25-foot friend might be stressful for a few people in this movie.
Maybe.
Especially the Kittner boy. Yes, definitely.
And, when the lights are off and it's quiet and you hear a noise in the distance, maybe you'll think of Pazuzu and be like, oh, that wasn't in there before.
What's funny is he has people living above him. You hear noises at night. That would freak me out. Definitely.
And it's that thing where,
Yeah, my neighbor's wife might be possessed.
it might be, no, she's just having a good time, bro.
Yeah.
No, supposedly
she is
she's
screaming about God a lot,
she's
though.
quote unquote exercising. I don't know.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
Jesus.
She's doing Pilates, but that's just the guy's name.
But maybe it's just the couch going, like rocking.
She
and
redecorates in the middle of the night.
She's upgraded from
Shaking.
Pazuzu to Pilates.
The Greek god.
Oh, my.